Looks like folks are filtering in. I've got 6 o'clock. All right, good evening, folks. I'm going to call to order the public hearing in KCC docket number 26 EKCE 149 STG. My name is Andrew French. I'm chair of the Kansas Corporation Commission. Joining me tonight are my colleagues Dwight D. Keene, seated here to my left, and Commissioner Annie Keither is joining us on Zoom. To make participation in this hearing as convenient as possible, we are, of course, holding this hearing in person, but we are also holding it virtually through Zoom, and we are also live streaming the hearing on YouTube. This docket was initiated by Evergy to request approval of a line siting permit for a 345 kV transmission line of approximately 15 miles in length. The proposed line would connect Evergy's McNew generating system to the existing Reno County substation. The line would be located in Reno County and would connect the McNew station to the power grid. Tonight's hearing will operate in 2 parts. The first part of the hearing is an informational session. You'll hear brief presentations from representatives of Evergy explaining their application. You will also hear a presentation from the staff of the Kansas Corporation Commission explaining the KCC's role in the line siting process. After those presentations, there will be an opportunity to ask questions about the application and about this permitting process. At the conclusion of the Q&A session, we will then take a short break. Then in the second part of the hearing, you'll have an opportunity to make formal public comments on the record for the commission to consider in this docket. If you'd like to address the commission with comments, please complete the sign-in sheet with the commission's public affairs staff out in the lobby if you have not already done so. In addition to the comments made live tonight, the commission is also accepting public comments on our website, by mail, or by calling our public affairs office over the phone. Comments will be accepted through 5 p.m. on Monday, January 26th. All comments, no matter how they are made, will carry equal weight with the commission. If you need to leave tonight's meeting early or you just aren't ready to make a comment or you're watching on YouTube, we hope you will consider one of the alternative methods of making a comment. If you didn't memorize all the different methods I said and the deadline to do it, don't worry, we're going to provide that information many times throughout the program tonight. And I believe we have it printed with our public affairs staff out in the lobby as well. So we will now begin the informational session that I described. And we will begin with our first presenter, Mr. Steve Vetch, Vice President of Transmission for Evergy.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm assuming everyone can hear me okay. Right on. Good evening. Thank you all for being with us tonight. I'm Steve Vetch. I am the Vice President of Transmission at Evergy. In this role, my responsibilities include the construction, the maintenance, and the operation of Evergy's transmission system. Also includes oversight of the construction of the McNew generating station to Reno County transmission line. So the line that will connect the soon-to-be new power station to the grid. With me this evening, I've got Andy Rechek on my right. Andy Rechek is the Senior Director of all of our large projects. So he's got direct authority and oversight over all of the large projects that fall under my umbrella. And on my left, I've got Scott Lorg, and Scott is the project manager of the transmission line connecting the Reno County substation or the McNew power plant to the Reno County substation. So Scott's going to have day-to-day authority. He'll be responsible for delivering on building the line and making sure certainly that we're getting all the questions along the way answered. We've got what I'll call a plethora of experience here in the room tonight. We've got experts in engineering, real estate, permitting. Any question that you all may have of us tonight, I think we've got the knowledge in the room to make sure that nobody leaves the room with an unanswered question. So if we're not able to answer the question, the 3 of us up here, we've got a bunch of help here in the front row. So if we're just shouting out to you in the front row, it's because someone's asked us a question we feel like we should answer or need to answer, and we don't have the knowledge to do it. So we may reach out to you in the front row. So thank you for being here. Little background on the project. Evergy's 2024 Integrated Resource Plan, or what we refer to as our IRP, identified a need for increased capacity and energy due to demand growth and increased capacity requirements from the Southwest Power Pool. This transmission project enables Evergy to strengthen the capacity and reliability of its system and meet and supply the needs of a growing economy with additional demands on our system. In our most recent predetermination case, docket 25-207, the KCC issued an order approving a non-unanimous partial settlement agreement regarding natural gas facilities on July 7th, 2025. This approval granted Evergy the authority needed to construct and own 2 combined cycle natural gas facilities in Kansas. One of those facilities is the McNew Station located in Reno County, Kansas. The new 15-mile 345 kV transmission line will connect the McNew Station to Evergy's transmission grid. This project will benefit residences and businesses in Hutchinson, Central Kansas, and beyond by strengthening the regional power grid and improving reliability across the state. At this point, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Scott Lord. Scott's going to discuss and explain how over the past 10 months, he and his team have determined the route, what we refer to as our preferred route for the line.
All right, good evening. Thank you for coming tonight. As Steve mentioned, my name is Scott Lorg. I'm the project manager for this project. I will be directly responsible for the planning, coordinating, and oversight of this project. I would like to use this time to explain the routing study process at a high level and explain how Evergy determined the preferred route that has been submitted to the KCC for approval. We began the routing study in March 2025 by hiring Burns & McDonald, an engineering consultant that has a specialized department performing routing studies for utilities. Evergy also developed an internal multidiscipline team. The objective of the routing study was to identify feasible routes that will connect the future McNew generating station to the Reno County substation. Routes were developed that offered the most benefits in terms of providing reliable electric power, minimized adverse impacts to the social and natural environment, and that are economically feasible. Evergy recognizes that a proposed transmission line can raise concerns, especially for people who may live or work near the preferred route. To meet the project need, which is to connect the McNew Station to the grid to help power homes and businesses, the project will try to minimize the effects on the natural environment and the properties where people live and work. Our team's job was to identify a route that balanced many factors. We evaluated potential routes against established criteria, incorporated public feedback, followed applicable KCC guidance, and ensured the transmission line meets engineering and safety standards. We understand that some property owners may not want the line on or near their property and may reasonably ask, why here? In the sections that follow, I will explain the route development and the selection process so you can see how routes were considered, how input was used, and how we ultimately determined a preferred route that meets the project need while working to avoid and minimize impacts wherever possible. While developing the route network of potential routes, our team focused on several criteria to take into consideration. Our goal was to find routes that maximize the distance of transmission lines near residences, businesses, public facilities, parks, cemeteries, and communication towers. We also tried to minimize crossings through cultivated land and establish pivot irrigation, maximize the distance of transmission line parallel to divisions of land and roads whenever practical, avoided wetlands, riparian areas, conservation lands, protected species, and their habitats for both transmission line corridor and the access for maintenance and construction. We also tried to maintain a reasonable length with as few angles as possible. And then we considered proximity to public and private airports to minimize unique design requirements. On this slide, you can see the route network that was created. We utilized this map to gather feedback from the public, city and county representatives, local and federal agencies. As you can see, all the routes head east, then north. This was mainly due to the Hutchinson Municipal Airport. Evergy held a public open house on July 29th, 2025 in Hutchinson. All landowners within 1,000 feet of all line segments from the map on the last slide were invited to this open house. Questionnaires were provided to gather input from the public on the importance of the routing considerations. The table below shows the questions that were on the questionnaire and how the public rated the importance of each question. Questionnaires were able to be mailed back for those that were not able to attend. After the open house, all the questionnaires were received and feedback from city and county representatives and local and federal agencies was received. The team utilized that information to create a modified route network. During this process, some routes were slightly adjusted and or eliminated. This map shows our modified route network. This network of route segments was utilized to perform the route scoring of each alternate route. The modified route network consisted of 58 individual segments that combined to form 985 alternate routes. Each alternate route was scored. The team utilized a weighted criteria scoring method to determine the preferred route. To the right is the table of route factors and the weight of each factor that was utilized to score each route. These weights were established by input from the public via the questionnaire, local and federal agencies, engineering and construction, and from the KCC routing study guidance. Once scoring was completed, a preferred route was selected that minimized the overall impacts to the social and natural resources while providing a constructible and economical route. The project schedule, if approved by the KCC, will be starting easement acquisitions in 2026, engineering and procurement in 26 and 27, with line construction beginning in January 2028 and ending in December of 2028, with easement restoration beginning in 2028 and completing in 2029. If you have further questions or need more information, we will be around at the conclusion of this public hearing, or please reach out to Jimmy Washington or go to the Evergy website. Thank you.
There we go. Before we do the Q&A session, we're going to now go to our second and final presentation, and that is Mr. Hassan Latif, litigation counsel representing the staff of the Kansas Corporation Commission.
Thank you, Chair French. As you said, I'm Hassan Latif. I'm an attorney for the Kansas Corporation Commission, representing the commission staff. Next to me is Paul Owings. He is a member of the commission staff. He is the chief engineer, and he's going to be representing staff tonight alongside me. I'm here tonight to give you a high-level overview of what the commission is and how it operates, and some details about Evergy's application to construct a new transmission line from the McNew generating station to the existing Reno County substation to connect the station to the power grid. Next slide. The commission is a state agency headed by 3 commissioners. The commissioners collectively act as a body in determining matters that come before them, and the current commissioners are Chair Andrew French, Commissioner Dwight Keene, and Commissioner Annie Keither. The commissioners are appointed by the governor and confirmed by the Kansas Senate and serve staggered 4-year terms. The commission has jurisdiction to oversee regulation of several industries that operate in Kansas, which includes but not limited to electric, natural gas and oil, telecommunications, and motor carriers. The agency employs a staff of professionals who provide guidance and input on various technical issues related to these industries. Next slide. Administrative hearings at the commission look similar to a trial you would see in a state court. The commissioners act as judges and preside over the cases. They hear and weigh the evidence. Witnesses testify before them, and they issue orders that can be appealed to higher courts. The commission's technical staff act as a party to the case. They develop and defend their own independent positions, recognizing that staff's duty is owed to the state of Kansas and the general public. Evergy is the applicant and the party in this case. Commission staff is also a party to the case. Often other entities called interveners representing a variety of interests participate in the case as well. Interveners develop and defend their own positions. As represented in the slide, The various parties are separate and have different roles in the case. The commission's technical staff are state of Kansas employees that have a tremendous amount of professional knowledge and training in fields such as accounting, economics, engineering, and financial analysis. During proceedings before the commission, staff advocates on behalf of the general public. Staff's job is to balance the interests of all utility customers, the long-term health of the utility, and the state of Kansas. Staff objectively evaluates all of the opinions in the case and then provides its own independent, neutral, and balanced recommendation that furthers the public interest of the state as a whole. Now that I've provided an overview of the commission and the commission staff's roles in the proceeding, I just want to highlight a few points about the specific application before the commission in this case. On November 14th, 2025, Evergy filed an application seeking commission approval of a siting permit to construct a new approximately 15-mile, 345 kilovolt transmission line that is proposed in Reno County from the McNew Generating Station to the existing Reno County substation to tie that McNew Generating Station to the power grid. To be clear, this public hearing does not deal with the existence of the generating station. It only has to do with the transmission line that would connect that station to the Reno County substation. You can access Evergy's application as well as associated pre-filed testimony on the commission's website. Evergy has already selected a route that is asking the commission approval to build this transmission line along. The yellow line on this map illustrates the proposed route of the transmission line. Evergy selected this route after it held open house sessions in 2025 and received input from the landowners and residents who are located along the potential route, as well as after receiving input from state and federal agencies and other public interest groups. In its application and accompanying testimony, Evergy represented that the proposed transmission line has several benefits, including strengthening the capacity and reliability of the system and meeting the supplying the needs of the growing local economy, as well as the additional demands that would put on Evergy's system. Now that Evergy's application for this proposed transmission line has been filed, the commission staff is in the process of conducting an independent review of Evergy's proposal. During staff's investigation, they review the routing study and determine if the process used sound reasoning to determine the proposed route and if all necessary factors are included. Staff also reviews the potential impacts of the route and gives their recommendation on the proposal. After staff completes their investigation, they will submit written testimony that indicates their position on the application. Staff's role is not to help one party over another, but rather to provide an independent assistance to the commission in balancing competing interests and evaluating the total impact of the application on the public interest. The commission is the arbiter of the necessity and reasonableness of the location of the proposed route of the new electric transmission line. Kansas statute requires the commission to consider the, quote, benefit to both consumers in Kansas and consumers outside of the state and economic development benefits in Kansas, end quote. In the summer of 2023, the commission opened a docket asking for staff and any interested stakeholders to investigate a set of principles and priorities for this to be used in future line siting proceedings taking place in Kansas. The goal of this investigation docket was for the commission to ultimately approve a set of criteria to guide the determination of the reasonableness and necessity of any given line siting application. The purpose of this slide is to highlight the fact that this investigation into line siting criteria was a multi-year process that the commission undertook to guide the process for reviewing line siting applications. In early 2025, the commission issued an order adopting guidelines for transmission line siting criteria and priorities. This is a precedential document that can be viewed on the commission's website by the public. Finally, I want to leave you with information on how you can submit a public comment in the docket or follow the case on our website. I will leave this screen up for a few seconds so you can take a picture or write down information from it. The first way that you can comment is by speaking in person here tonight following these presentations. Additionally, you can send comments to our Public Affairs Office by submitting them online, by mail, or by phone. The instructions for how to submit a comment online through the Commission's website is included on this slide. You can also follow these proceedings on our website. At the same place that you can submit a comment, there's also a link to view docket details, and that will allow you to follow the filings and the orders in this proceeding. And that will include the testimony filed by Evergy, the testimony filed by staff and any interveners, and also let you know when an order comes out on the matter. Thank you all for coming tonight, and we look forward to any comments that you have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Latif. We are now going to start the Q&A session. If folks have questions about the application or about staff's role in this process. I do want to stress that this session is separate from the public comment session. So this is an opportunity to ask questions, but if you have a comment that you want the commission to consider as part of the official record in this docket, hold that until part 2 of the program after our break. So for those here in the room who would like to ask a question, please form a line. Lynn, do we have a microphone? Oh, over here. Please just go to this microphone if you'd like to ask a question and take turns. If you are participating on Zoom and you have a question, please let us know by using the raise hand feature, which should be under the react button. And if we, as long as we have questions, we will just alternate between live questions and Zoom questions. So if anyone has a question, just go ahead and move toward the microphone. Everybody doesn't have to move at once. All right. And please just start with your name and your county of residence and.
Sure. Virginia Crossland-Maka, and I'm from Allen County. Good evening, commissioners. Thank you for coming. The determination of where the gas plant is setting, how was that process? Who was involved in that process, and why was that location selected?
So just, I'll be real frank about this right at the front end. None of the three of us up here were involved in that, so I've got a little bit of knowledge of how we selected the site. But if you make a comment about how we went about it in the comment section of the proceeding tonight, we'll definitely get you an answer in our responses with testimony. The short version of it is we hired a firm to select the site. So we don't build often enough thermal generation to be really, really good at deciding where it goes. So we hired someone that does it more often than us to help us select the site. There's a lot of different criteria that go into it. One of the criteria is proximity to enough gas to actually run the facility. So that was one of the reasons why the selection site was chosen. Also not near a place where a lot of people wouldn't want it to be located. So it was generally, I think, in this part of our service territory, say somewhat welcome to locate the facility where we located it. And outside of that, I think I would just ask you to make a comment in the comment section and we'll get you the right and more, the answer more in depth.
Is there anything staff would want to add? I know we had some involvement in the prior docket.
Okay, try again. My name's Paul Owings. I'm commission staff, and I did participate in the predetermination docket, and I read the study relating to the siting of it. And I think the major factors are location to gas pipeline facilities, and then they also considered, location to transmission facilities. So I think this was fairly close to both of those. And then those were there were the social factors also considered in the study.
All right, thank you. We don't have any questions online, so I'll just keep going here in the room. And again, just start with your name and your question.
Okay, Stan Jansen from Reno County, and I live within a quarter of a mile of the substation now. And my question is, are you going to do anything? I know it's going to be a bigger line coming in, right? So is it going to be more of a hum than I'm hearing now? Are you going to do anything? I can step out my front door and hear it hum in that substation. And you originally planned to put trees around it, which they didn't grow. I understand that. We've had drought for a long time. So I just wonder if there's any plans to get rid of the humming noise and And I was promised also you weren't gonna put up lights. I have a shadow in my yard from the bright lights. You put them down lower, but it looks like a parking lot now when they come on. Can you not put these lights on motion sensors? And I know you're afraid that somebody's gonna steal something from there, but
That sounds
That's-
like a good question for Evergy, so.
Okay, is it on now? Okay. Yeah, start with a couple questions here. Yeah, the humming noise, you know, Reno substation currently has 345 kV lines into it that are part of the power grid. I think right now the lines that come into that are rated up to 2000 amps. This line itself will only connect to the generating plant, which will have a lower amperage flow than some of these other lines. So I would actually expect this line to not hum as loud as what you're saying the existing lines do, because it is just strictly coming from the generating plant, not distributing bulk electricity, which can get a lot more amperage on the lines. So yeah, from the lighting perspective, that is there for security reasons. As you can imagine, in today's environment, we have a lot of theft issues and concerns. Yeah, we did try to put those down low. That's our new standard, to try and minimize, the effect to the neighbors. If it is a nuisance to you, I ask that you maybe catch us afterwards down here at the front. We can talk about if there's a way to reduce that power or whatever of ththose lights. But tell you, Evergy as a whole is going to want some type of lighting in there, maybe not full blast the whole time, but some type of lighting because of theft concerns. It's become really prevalent across our properties. So on that. And then I think the third thing you mentioned was the vegetation around the substation. Yeah, we can take a look at that. I don't know if that was a conditional use permit with the county or not. That there was vegetation around that. If it was, we'll definitely work with Reno County, but on that. The last thing I'll just want to mention is there will be work at the substation as part of this project to make a new line terminal, but it will stay inside the existing fence lines. There will be some reconfiguration that occurs inside that substation to make room for this additional line terminal to come in. But like I said, the outside fence will not change at this point. So.
All right, thank you. No hands online. There's nobody in line at the microphone now, although I see some movement. So we'll give a moment here. Go ahead.
My name is Jairus Regier, Reno County resident, born here, lived here. We farm here. We own a lot of ground here. We dealt with Evergy back in 2008 when you put the 345 running north-south. And so we do have some familiarity with dealing with Evergy. And so I have three questions for Evergy. Back in 2007, 2008, I believe the right-of-way was, I'll say 150 feet for a number on it. And you guys, for the life of you, couldn't stay on the right-of-way. When we'd approach your people, number one, most of them didn't speak English. The ones that did says, Evergy didn't give us a big enough right-of-way to turn around our semis, so we have to turn around your field. And they said, well, you settle up with the agent at the end of the project and they'll settle up with you. Well, they didn't pay a squat, to be honest with you, at the end on it. And so now, as a matter of fact, I charge you guys $500 in my contracts for every time you get off the right of way. That seems to help, but in that project in 2008, I don't know how many miles of rope you finally put up, but you put T-posts up on both sides and put rope up to keep your employees, your contract people on the right of way. I will say you need to learn something from the pipeline people, because those people can stay on the right of way. They don't dare get off 1 inch. And from a KCC standpoint, they need to be held accountable for this, because you guys can't stay on the right of way. And then we get told, well, you guys didn't buy big enough right of way. I'm fine with you guys putting up power lines wherever you need to, but we shouldn't be playing middleman with that. Can you address that issue?
Yeah, I was not involved in the 2008 project, but obviously that was Evergy. So I would like to think, or I know we are much better now. It is a measurement for my team. We track that every year. How many public complaints do we get if we get off the right of way? And that is the expectation, because I fully agree with you. If we purchase an easement, we should stay in that easement boundary. We don't have the right to traverse outside of that. So yeah, we work very hard right now to make sure that's clear in our construction documents. And yeah, if there is an issue, like you said, we would come out and do exactly what you guys did, which should have been on us, I feel like, and put up the T-posts with the rope. But we will stake that edge of that easement the entire way before we start construction with wood stakes and just metal flags to give a visual. But that is the expectation. And if somebody was to get off that, I would hope you get touch with somebody, whether it's Jimmy and the real estate group, Scott, myself, we will address that because I fully agree with you. That is not acceptable. We purchase a right and we got to stay within that right. We're not above the law or don't have open access. So.
And I'd add,
Yes,
if
sir.
during construction, they're getting off their right of way, you can also call the commission and we can schedule a conference call with them. We'd be happy to work with you on that. And then also, Evergy is obligated to restore the property back to the original condition. And sometimes we do get formal complaints and handle those and look at those situations to make sure that that's been adhered to.
Great, thank you. Question number 2, most likely this will be up for Evergy. We also have ground out on Highway 50 and you guys just ended up putting up a new power line south of the train tracks. They're running roughly east to west. And so we're still working on negotiations with cleanup process on that. I've seen lunch in the middle of the section. No one lives out there. They leave their lunch wrappers out there. I sent a picture of it, sent it to Evergy. Oh, sorry, we'll clean it up. The biggest problem we have is you went down, you took down wooden power poles, you put up steel power poles. Fine, I'm not gonna tell you guys what to do. The problem is when they took down the wooden power poles, lack of a better word, I'm a doctor of pharmacy and a farmer by trade, but the arms, you guys took the arms off the poles, you put them on the ground, they use, I'm sure, an electric impact, and all the nuts are in the sand yet there. You haven't cleaned that up yet. So that's an issue over there. So when I go out and graze my cows and they eat the metal in the ground, then they die. Then who's gonna come back on that? Issue number 2, so we're out there cutting and in regards to the same thing, you had the big insulators laying on the ground, ran one through my combine. I have another picture of one that skidded on the ground for a while. Your cleanup process is, let's just say, trashy. Would you address that?
Yeah, and I hate to hear that because that's not what we want to be as a company and as a transmission construction team. I will tell you that. So I will definitely be following up with that construction team and making sure because yeah, as they stated earlier, we should be restoring the property. We should be removing any foreign material that wasn't there. If there is an issue and, we show that it's showing that you have a cow that goes to the vet after it passes and it has a metal nut in its digestive system, we're going to be there working with you to cover that if it's, definitive that that's the reason that cow passed. So on that, because we own this cradle to grave and obviously operate these lines for the next 50 to 100 years. So that grave part is a long ways away on these lines. So sorry to hear that on the, you're probably over by the Burton area. Is that where you are on that? Yeah, we just finished that project up. So definitely we'll be following up on that with you. And if you want to give me your name afterwards, we can, or you want to give it now, I'll jot it down and we'll definitely get in touch with you concerning that project. So.
I have pictures and I'll talk to you afterwards.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Issue number 3. Back in 2007, 2008, which you already addressed, you guys weren't there, but you're still the same company and you still represent them. So typically the way it works with farm ground is for every crop we can't harvest, they pay us 100%, and they also pay us 50% for the next year's damage of the crop, and then 25% typically. The problem we had with Evergy is we plant wheat in Kansas, breadbasket of Kansas. The problem we had was wheat planting is typically October 1st. So when they had this project, you had another power line go down, you took about a year and a half, that's fine, whatever. But on the restoration process, they came in with a big tractor and a big tillage tool and they ripped the ground. We ended up with boulders that were probably 18 inches in diameter a week before planting. We told Evergy, you owe us for that wheat crop. They said, no, we don't. We don't owe you for it because you can plant it. I'm sorry, as a farmer, I would be, if I planted that and I turn it in for a loss for crop insurance, that would be insurance fraud. Evergy asked me to do insurance fraud on it, and I don't believe it's appropriate. So on this next one, I want to say if that ground is not ready for 3 months prior to planting, I should be paid for that full crop. Evergy refused. They said, you can't do anything to us. We got bigger lawyers than you do. And just the dealing with Evergy over this, we were your largest partner in 2008. We had, I believe, 13 to 18 properties you guys crossed. For some reason, you hit every single one of us on it. And so just the way we were treated, we were also told in the contract that we could have all the culverts that were put into place. When we went to go at the end to settle up, oh, well, the neighbor said they wanted it. So they didn't follow their contracts on it. So as a farmer, I don't have a problem doing this for the good of the community, allowing you guys to put power lines. But when you treat us like this and everything, it's really, really wrong with us.
No, and I really appreciate your, I feel like you're being forthright and upfront with what happened there. And I appreciate your honesty and your attitude towards, the transmission lines here, because they are a vital part of getting electricity reliably to everybody. So yeah, that's not the group as, I have the large construction team, as Steve said. That is not the way we want to operate. We do want to get out and negotiate with you with our real estate team in advance. And if we sign conditions and terms there, we need to abide by those. And if we don't, I would expect the KCC to be notified and we'll be called on the carpet. But that is not the way we want to operate today. Not the way I feel our team operates at all today. This is your guys' backyard. As a corporation, Eastern Kansas is our backyard, but we're still a guest in your backyard, and we got to keep that in mind and treat you guys accordingly as we come through your property. So I do appreciate that and look forward to getting some more information after the hearing from you. So
Thank you for taking my questions.
Thank you for the questions. All right, still no questions online. Looks like we've got another in the room. So just go ahead.
Yeah, David Ledebor, Reno County. I just have a question on what the current status of like the design documents are, if like the drawings have been like IFC issue for construction, or if there's still time to adjust those drawings.
So we're in the infancy stage of this, right? So we've established a preferred route, submitted it to the KCC. We're here tonight to get these comments. We have not started any of the engineering design of this route. We will not start that engineering design until we get final approval of said approved route. So we have not started any design aspects.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Are there any more questions in the room before we take our break? I think I see one more. Go ahead.
Clark Munger, Reno County here. What does restoration look like afterwards? So the proposed line where it's running through my property runs through a bunch of mature timber and trees. And I don't know how restoration of that property to beforehand really looks, because it's like those trees will never come back in my lifetime. And so how do I mitigate that? Or is there you guys plant trees later for me to offset costs? Because if I try to get new trees, I mean, trees are fairly expensive.
Evergy.
There we go. Apologize. So yeah, the way we handle the restoration process, I just want to be clear up front first. There's the easement acquisition process. That is a separate payment up front before the project starts. Restoration on the back end of the project is a separate payment from the easement, and it's dependent on the amount of damages. But when we do purchase an easement, it is to be clear of vegetation, trees that grow of any significant height. So if we were to come through your property, we would clear cut that area. If those trees have value, you would be compensated for those in the upfront easement part. But then we would try to restore that to native grass or whatever the other areas around it that are not wooded vegetation. Try to restore it to what it would be if the trees hadn't been there, and looking at what's around the other areas. So we'd be looking at probably native grass in that area.
And that makes sense that there's another easement on there, and that's what you guys have is native grass there. But like, how does compensation considered for trees?
trees, depending on the type of trees, yeah, it can be by value per tree if it's a small tract. If it's a larger tract with, they'll look at average number of trees per acre or whatever and come up with a value there. So on that. So, and yeah, there's difference, if it's a planted tree row versus just wild trees, but wild, trees that come about naturally still have value. So.
Well, yeah, because the big thing it gets into is like habitat, do a lot of hunting. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's degradation of habitat for a hobby me and my family do. And again, I don't know what like financial compensation really looks like for something like that.
Okay, yeah, and I can't, we do have a couple real estate people in the front row here. I'm sure they'd be happy to talk to you afterwards. Actually, the three of you, I think, Matt, and if you guys want to raise your hand, there's three people here that can talk to you in more detail around how we've done traditional compensation on treat areas and that, because that's what they do day in, day out. So.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
All right. I don't see any more folks at the microphone for questions. We don't have any hands online. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take a 10-minute break. Folks can use the restroom. Also, this might be a good opportunity if you feel like you didn't get a question answered or you'd like to discuss with the Evergy team or with KCC staff and you want to catch them. We've only got 10 minutes, but if you've got a quick question, go ahead and use this time for that. Although I suspect folks are also be happy to stay after the program tonight for questions. So we are going to break for 10 minutes and we will return at 6:50 to begin the official public comment session of tonight's program. So we are now in recess. Your seats. We will begin part two, the official public comment session shortly. All right, we will now begin the official public comment session. I do want to emphasize the commissioners take these public comments seriously. Comments are an important part of the evaluation process, and they are part of the official record in this case as we examine Evergy's line sighting application. Consequently, we look forward to hearing all your comments tonight. The commissioners can't engage in dialogue with you during the comment session. However, we may ask questions for clarification. I have a list of folks who have signed up and indicated they'd like to offer live public comments tonight. I will call your name in the order that you appear on my list. If you're participating on Zoom, as I said before, just please use the raise hand feature under the react button. And to the extent I've got questions both in the room and on Zoom, I will just alternate between the live audience and the Zoom as needed, as long as there are comments. And if you're on Zoom, you will need to unmute yourself after I call your name. Once you're called on, please begin by stating your name and the city or county where you reside, as the comments are being recorded and will become part of the official commission record. So we will start here in the room. I'll start with the first name on my list, and it is Craig Gibson. And just make your way to the same microphone where folks were asking questions before.
My name is Craig Gibson. We live at 4013 East Illinois, Hutchinson, Kansas. And after the first proposals that came in with the different sidings or different paths that could go, I suggested that it stay off of Illinois Avenue. And it did until it got right in front of our house. And it's going down through the center of the sections for 4 miles. And then at Obie Road, it goes south a half mile. And then it goes in front of our house. And then it jumps across Illinois. And the reason why I bring that up, I assume that takes more poles when you go across the road, make a turn, slight turn. And I would prefer, and logically, I would think you would stay in the middle of the section until you go to the Yoder Road. And then you could go south a half mile if you so desired. Or you could even stay in the center of the sections and go all the way over to Halstead or whatever that is. And so we own a 1/4 mile of frontage there. The poles won't be on our side. They'll be on the north side of Illinois. But obviously they're going to diminish our property value. And now every way we'll look, we'll have poles and lines. So that is my comment, that I don't understand why they went south on Obie that half mile.
All right, thank you very much for your comment, and thank you for being specific too. All right, I don't have any hands online yet, so I'm going to stay in the room. And my next commenter is Susan Koritz. Is Ms. Koritz still with us tonight? All right, if not, the next name I have on the list is Mark Hamlin. There we go.
Hi there. My name is Mark Hamlin. I own a 40 that's directly adjacent from the substation. And my main statement is I just want to point out a couple misstatements that were presented earlier and mentioned multiple times that all the landowners in the transmission path had been previously notified and given a chance at earlier forums to voice their opinion. My first official notification of this project was December 30th. So this is my first opportunity to voice my opinion. And that graphic that you show with multiple routes that I got to see briefly is my first sighting of it. So I guess it's a little disheartening that the team at Evergy was not able to do their due diligence and figure out all the affected landowners in the path. I have owned my 40 for multiple years now. And like I said, it's a little disappointing when a hunter can go to Onyx and track game across my property and get in touch with me, but the team at Evergy can't seem to do that. I'm hopeful that my opinion still matters in your guys' decision. And I look forward to your guys' response. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, still no hands online. Virginia Maka.
Good evening. My name is Virginia Maka. I'm from Allen County. And I am kind of the person that has a website for property owners. And for some reason, it has exploded in the last 30 days. And by the filings, I can see why. People are very concerned because there's no transparency in this process at all, especially for the public. It's hard for them to understand information. It's hard for them to understand how this system works sometimes, and a lot of times why the system doesn't work. So I'm looking at it, a gas investment in the middle of a urban area. When I drive across Kansas, and I put plenty of miles across Kansas, why there? The amount of disruption you're going to cause homeowners, property owners, it's horrendous to live all your life, work for a home, pay for it, and your asset ends up being nothing. And you find out, like this young man just said, he's had 20 days to think about it. And that's kind of an embarrassment to the whole system, because you guys at the KCC are supposed to provide that avenue, educate people, and 20 days is not sufficient for someone to wrap their mind around something that they don't even know about. A lot of these people here tonight are from across town. And you look at a gas plant that sits outside town and you're thinking to yourself, with all the other power lines that I see driving here, what the heck do you need another easement? And it will be a giant one. There's 700 kilovolts on this line. I mean, that's what that gas plant can generate. And to me, there's so many other places you can stick that gas plant, and so many other places and assets that Evergy has and has already built out the substations. And some of that grid hardening or whatever they call it, that's been on the backs of taxpayers. We've awarded them money through our general funds for their infrastructure. And in the end, all these new transmission lines, are they under the highway byway theory where that rate's going to go, I mean, the cost of construction will go back on our rates. I, every day, receive at least 20 phone calls of desperate people. They can't pay their electric bill. Their land's being taken. They just got served eminent domain papers, and they have no idea what is the first step. And they're being forced to sign non-disclosures and leases. And now I have leases that are tied up in courts by federal foreign owners in lawsuits where the solar was never built, the LLC went broke, and they didn't know their land was being leveraged against construction loans. So when you got billions of dollars of construction loans and you're just this little farmer in Western Kansas or wherever you are, you know, there has to be some justice for people. This is impacting budgets and people's lives, hunting, our environment. We have spent millions and millions of dollars in compliances to live in a state that where we hold environmental quality to a high standard. And what I see is here these farmers and their pivots, you're interrupting their lives, you're going down the middle of the section. What about the productivity of that land? What about the property tax that that easement will take off? You know, you talk about routes and you have a weighting system, and I get that, it's a formula. But in that formula, think about this. All you have to do is remove one coefficient, one protected species, one small factor, and it turns that weighting system to maybe the route you want. So I look at this route and I see a lot of land being impacted. I see a lot of lives, especially older homes that are paid for, retired couples that are going to look out and see these poles that are, it's not what you dream of when you retire and look out your window. I get it, you know, who knows, you know, what this, you know, extra infrastructure and gas requirement and power is. But when you have some player pushing the scale like the Southwest Power Pole, is it really in the best interest of Kansans? Because I have watched for 3 years and it has not been the best interest of Kansas. It has hurt families. It has wrecked businesses. And most of all, it has really hurt all of our freedom to own land. So I'm here not as a property owner, but I'm really concerned and I want government to work for the people. We have saw in the last 5 years how every system has failed these people. And now with the high property tax and the, you know, the inflation rate, there has to be some kind of system put in place where the gas plant, there were other locations to be considered. And that's just what I have to say. And I really thank you tonight for being here. It really matters. And you are our voice. And I hope that this decision, there can be some ramifications for these people in this room. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Maka. All right, still no hands online. So I'm going to go to the last name I have on the list is Clark Munger. And if anyone else decides they want to make a comment, even though you're not on my list yet, we will go ahead and do a call for last comments if anybody's decided they want to make a comment. So go ahead.
Yes, Clark Munger, Reno County here. I own property at 4717 North Bueller Road. So Kansas statute KSA 66-1178 requires that in filings by Evergy or any power company with the KCC that they have to include in the filing landowners affected within 660 feet of the proposed route. Similar to Mark up here, am not listed as a landowner, have had no contact from Evergy and in any of this sort of stuff. And right, the argument could be made, well, how long have you owned the land? Mark's owned that land for 2 years. I've owned that land for over a year now. I don't think Reno County is that slow in updating landowner records, all that sort of stuff. I don't know. That's not my job. And so to me, it causes me to doubt, yeah, was due diligence really done in all of this? Has Evergy really considered all this sort of stuff? I didn't get a voice. Mark didn't get a voice in some of this sort of stuff. Who else maybe didn't get a voice, right? Could they have just picked their preferred route? gone through the ruckus of the motion of this is what we're supposed to do, submit all this sort of stuff, and still just say, hey, this is what we want to do no matter what. And so I have some concerns there really about, okay, how is due diligence done? Because whether it was Burns, McDonald's, whoever, Evergy has the final say on that, and then submitted that as accurate data when it's inaccurate data. And then again, just like the normal considerations most of us have of degradation of property, land value, all that sort of stuff that is frustrating to have to deal with. You know, when we bought this property, had I known this was going to be going on, I would have not considered it. And so the other consideration then too is we bought this property in 24, late 24, we submitted plans with the county, had a residence up and built by, it was probably middle of March when that was completed. And that puts my residence about 500 feet away from, give or take a little bit, from that proposed power line. And again, had I known this was going on, would not invested the amount of money I did into building my residence there. And then again, having to wake up, look at that every single morning. There's a large swath there of trees that are mine that are going to be taken out that currently hide an existing easement that Evergy has there. Again, knew that buying the property, but this new proposed line is taking out those trees. And so now I get to look at a bigger, longer transmission line as well as look at this other secondary line, and really don't know how I'm going to mitigate some of that sort of stuff. So those are kind of my comments. Thanks for your consideration.
Thank you very much. All right. If anyone else wishes to make a comment live tonight, we're going to go and remind everybody all the other ways you can make comments. But if anyone else wants to make a comment live tonight, if you're on Zoom, you can raise your hand. Or if you're in the room, walk to the microphone. I got a taker. And since I don't have your name, just remind us your name again.
Jared Regier, Reno County. Just a quick comment with the other guys about not being notified. My wife, Sheila Wilms, actually owns one of the properties and she's been getting mailings. And so I knew about that property, but my name is Jared Regier and you're going a full mile on mine and I never received notifications that I'm aware of. So once again, I didn't think much about it, but when these guys are all piping up saying, I wasn't notified, and it was always in the back of my mind, but it's just one more person that I don't believe was properly notified. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for that comment. Looks like we've got one more. We've got one more. And just begin with your name again.
David Ledabor, Reno County. My property is 8306 East 4th. I believe I'm parcel 271. Same as everyone else, I was not notified until around November. I would like to propose a line adjustment. My property borders exactly where the transmission line crosses north to south on 4th Street. I would like to see the line moved east 300 to 400 feet near Kent Street. All along Kent Street from 4th to 30th on the west side of Kent, there is no residential housing. Whereas where it's currently proposed, it is directly adjacent to my property for the entire border of 2,600 plus feet. I would like to see it moved.
All right, thank you for that comment. Okay, anyone else in the room or anyone on Zoom like to raise their hand? Okay, I am not seeing anyone else raising their hand at this time. So I do want to remind everyone, oh, we've got the slide up. Good. That's what I was going to ask for. I do want to remind everyone that the public comment period is open until 5 p.m. on January 26th. The materials handed out this evening outline the 3 ways in which to make comments that can be submitted for our consideration. You can see all of that information behind me here on the screen. And I believe there are also handouts out in the lobby. If you didn't get one yet, grab one on your way out. And as I mentioned, those comments, if you submit them later, will carry the same weight as comments that were made at the public hearing tonight. And appreciate all the comments that were made tonight and for being so specific. Great comments. The commission will hold an evidentiary hearing on this matter on March 9th, beginning at 10 a.m. in our first floor hearing room in Topeka. And the hearing will also be broadcast on the KCC's YouTube channel. We are also scheduled to issue a final decision in this matter on or before May 13th of this year. So this concludes the public hearing. Thank you for your comments and your attendance tonight. We are adjourned.